The end of Africa's poverty lies in its capacity to trade. There is no honor in begging, so my father and mother taught me as I was growing up. This was to make me realize that I had to work and work hard to live a meaningful and honorable life. After all, they added, Nsala Nindiminwa Tempulilwa. I'm not speaking Greek. This, in my language, simply means to fight hunger. You cannot beg, you must cultivate. It all started with an early evening impromptu meeting on a Friday, January 14th this year at the ZITIC office in Lusaka with a great son of this continent, one Theo Pogenpo from the World Trade Center in Cape Town. His message went straight to my heart, touching my passion to use business to uplift African peoples while claiming our rightful place in the international economic arena. I quote him, "For too long, Africa has been fed by the giants of the world. Africa's time has come to be the breadbasket for these giants." Kenako. And from that meeting, I'm here, ladies and gentlemen, humbly honored to speak to an audience of distinguished government officials, business people, and community leaders of our continent. Theo, my vocabulary betrays me, for I cannot find sufficient words to say thank you. For many years, Africa has been traveling around the developed world looking for aid. Helpful that as it may have been in the development of our continent, little has been achieved in the African struggle against poverty. Instead, we have allowed a dependence syndrome to develop and deepen over the years. This has led to the domination of Africa in all areas of our lives by the now so-called donor nations and multilateral financial institutions, leaving Africa with no space to determine its own destiny. Foreign dictated economic policies have entrenched the vicious circle of African poverty with little or no way out. We are aware that despite numerous international efforts to integrate Africa into the mainstream of international trade, the continent still remains on the periphery of global economic advancement. Africa points an accusing finger on the developed world for the marginalization, demanding fair trade. The developed world, on the other hand, points its finger on Africa for being non-proactive and failing to meet standards prescriptions defined by themselves. In the meantime, while this goes on, decades go by and poverty entrenches itself, eating away on the very fabric of African society, destroying self-confidence and the will to achieve. Today, Africa's share in total global trade stands at just about 2.3%. While there has been some improvement in non-traditional exports over the last decade, much of Africa's exports have been as a result of increased demand for oil in the developed countries. Less than 30% of exports from sub-Saharan Africa are manufactured goods, compared to an average of 70% for all developing countries of the world. Surely, this situation cannot be described as satisfactory. If anything, it is simply unacceptable, considering the continent's natural resources and boundaries. To address this, our governments have put in place various initiatives to promote trade and investment driven by statutory institutions. No doubt, a lot has been achieved in opening up the continent to business. Nevertheless, I believe there is still room for private sector participation in this area to complement government effort. My own initiative to set up the Zambian International Trade and Investment Center, a private-owned trade and investment facilitation firm, is testimony to this. The launch of the World Trade Center today, a private initiative by Mokron Investment Limited, demonstrates in no uncertain terms what the private sector can do in contributing to the growth of trade and investment on the African continent. Julius Stern and his team at the World Trade Center have scored a first. Congratulations, and hats off to you, Julius, and your great team. The World Trade Center answers to the needs of the African business community, those that understand the practice of business and the challenges that business faces. This is a practical step to bring Africa into the center stage of the global economy. The challenge that remains for African governments, on which they must concentrate henceforth, is to develop business-friendly policies. Policies that will enable African business to grow so as to take full advantage of the global trade opportunities. These policies must, as of necessity, focus on enabling and enhancing value addition to our natural and agricultural raw materials, turning away from exports of low-value commodities that do not create sufficient employment opportunities for our people and add little to the fight against poverty on our continent. We must refocus our efforts towards attracting investments in value addition so that we can trade in goods whose prices we determine, and not commodities whose prices are dictated by those that depend on natural resources for their own value-adding industries. Only in this way can Africa get fair trade. African business, on the other hand, must now step out to seek international partnerships and technologies to improve productivity in terms of both volume and quality. Let us seek partnerships based on principles of equality, mutuality of benefits, and complementarity of skills. Let us bring our natural resources to the table and invite foreign business to invest in our economies for our shared future. Africa is the future. Yes. With Africa's opportunities in manufacturing, agriculture, housing development, energy, tourism, mining, etc., there can only be mutual gain when we partner with the rest of the world. Julius, the World Trade Center that we are launching today in Cape Town, and those to follow in many other African countries under your visionary leadership, should not be an ivory tower. Instead, it should serve as a reminder to all of us of the need for innovation. Let it be a catalyst for the growth of small and medium enterprises into large international corporations through creative initiatives that promote investment and market access for Africa's SMEs. Let it also serve as a catalyst for Africa's economic integration, without which we remain small national little economies with no real impact on the global trade arena. I know that you and your team, Julius, have both the vision and the drive to make this happen. The challenge for the African business community is simply to support you in this outstanding initiative. Let African business make full use of your tremendous services that will impact business growth on the continent. Remember, the African economy is changing, and changing rapidly. Today, Africa is rated the leading emerging market commanding unprecedented levels of international trade and investment interest. My own country, Zambia, is becoming an area of focus. Africa must leverage this interest. From Cape Town, therefore, let us say to the rest of the world, we are no longer a continent of wars and self-destruction, but a continent in constant search for peace and social stability. We are no longer closed economies, but economies opening up for business. Let us say we are no longer a continent of beggars, but a continent of producers ready to trade. Let us say to them, we may be small and medium enterprises, but we are seeking joint venture partnerships, seeking markets to sell our products at fair prices, seeking to create productive employment for our people, reduce poverty and improve Africa's quality of life. Yes, let us say from Cape Town, we thank you for all your aid that you have given us over the years. Now, give us trade. Thank you. Before I leave the stage, I want to do something. May I please ask Julius to come over? In order to appreciate that what Julius and his team have done is not a South African or Cape Town initiative, but a continental initiative. I take off my national badge on my lap, and I put it on Julius. I am not handing over my nationality, but simply sharing it.